Hello there, you're watching the press preview. A first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. It's time to see what's making the headlines with the editor of the Sheffield Star, Nancy Fielder, and the former government special advisor, Mo Hussein. They'll be with us right through until midnight. Let's see what's on some of those front pages now. A pandemic chaos is set to continue for weeks, The Guardian warns, following new advice which could allow some to avoid self-isolation. The Sun leads with court proceedings against the manager of the Welsh national football team, Ryan Giggs, who's been charged with assault and controlling behaviour towards his ex-girlfriend. The accusations, which Mr Giggs denies, are also on the front of the Mirror. The Telegraph, meanwhile, reports on a new anti-obesity scheme which will incentivise people to buy more fruit and vegetable. The number of migrants who've crossed the Channel in boats has now reached 22,000. That's according to The Times. The Daily Mail says Prince Harry will release 4 books as part of a deal, but the second will only be released after the death of Her Majesty the Queen. And we're off is the headline in the Express as hundreds of thousands prepare to go away for the summer holidays. The Financial Times says law firms have recorded huge profits thanks to soaring demand for their services over the course of the pandemic. Coffee shrinks your brain, proclaims The Star, as scientists say too much can cause dementia. And we're joined tonight by Nancy Fielder and Mo Hussein. There you are. Good evening to you both. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's kick off, shall we, with the Olympics. One would have thought that it would be all over the front pages, but that isn't really the case today. Mo, start us off with page 4 and 5 of the Mirror.
Yes, well, as we've seen, even with the football and the Euros, sports is a really progressive force and a really big unifier. But clearly the context this time round for the Olympics, one time seen as the biggest show on earth, is very different. We saw a very poignant, stripped back and somber affair today for the opening ceremony in Japan, a real tribute paid to the millions of people who've lost their lives due to COVID, and a really empty stadium. You know, the stadium can hold about 68,000 people, and yet there are only 950 VIPs. So I think it has set the tone for excitement. People are excited for their national teams. The athletes are certainly very, very happy to be there. But the Olympics have caused a bit of a stir locally as well, with the COVID rates rising again in Japan. I think a lot of local residents questioning whether it's the right thing to do, and protests happening as well. So probably a bit of a mixed bag this time round.
Nancy, what did you make of the opening ceremony? A lot of people online saying, oh, it was fantastic, but quite a few others saying it actually was a bit sad in that empty stadium.
It was very mixed, wasn't it? I mean, it was spectacular. The fireworks were incredible, and there were moments that really lifted your spirits. But then it was against this backdrop of an empty stadium. There were messages about the pandemic and about lockdown and about the terrible losses woven through it. So it really was quite unique and very representative of where we are. And as has already been said, lots of people are against this, and they're protesting outside, saying that lives should be more important than the Olympics. And lots of other people are really keen to get going. So I think enthusiasm for it, certainly when we're watching from the safety of our own homes on TV, will rise and we'll be grabbed by the excitement. It is a fantastic event, and it's been really difficult 2 years for all these athletes. But yes, mixed messages right from start to finish, as we've had for the last year and a half.
It has been a very difficult year, hasn't it? And you said that about the athletes. It does come, obviously, in this this pandemic year. So for the organisers, it was very difficult. But if you look at the actual athletes, they go in cycles, don't they, of 4 years. But then if you add a 5th year to that, I mean, some of them won't even make it. Mo, do you think that we're going to come home with lots of medals this time?
I hope so. Fingers crossed. I think we need to wait and see. I think the heat is proving quite tricky for a lot of people, but we can be hopeful. I think we have a good team. I think it can be done, but we need to wait and see.
Yeah, Nancy, what do you make of our team? Let's just have a look at the Times, the back page there, and obviously Dina Asher-Smith. Her comments today saying that you should be able to protest. It's a basic fundamental human right.
Absolutely. And it does seem that the Olympics Committee is agreeing with that. I know people have spoken out against her, but then people have spoken out about anti-racism gestures right the way through. This isn't about politics, and it's not about bringing politics into sport. It's about fighting racism. And she's absolutely right. If somebody wants to be able to make a small, very small, rather quick protest while on a massive international stage, who should stand in their way? And perhaps when these type of protests were taken in the 1960s, if more people had supported them then, we wouldn't be having to do it now in 2021.
Dina Asher-Smith had said it is a basic fundamental human right, but the IOC disagree, don't they? They say it's in their charter. You mustn't protest during the medal ceremony. Mo, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the IOC should look again at their charter, because saying racism is wrong is not making a political point, and it's not protesting. It's something that most people should find actually quite easy to agree on. And an event like the Olympics is a brilliant platform to get that message out there, to campaign for racial equality. So protests is one thing, but I think by lumping anti-racism into a protest movement or a political movement, I do think the IOC have got that wrong.
Nancy, you mentioned what happened in the 60s. We spoke to John Carlos a little earlier. He and Tommy Smith were expelled after that protest. Do you think that the world has changed since then? Or we saw with the Euro 2020 final, perhaps it hasn't.
Well, I think the world has changed, but racism has most certainly not gone away. And we can all see this. This is an international gathering, isn't it? Look at the people that are representing our own country and how actually they represent our country in terms of their colour, in terms of their gender, much better than most organisations and companies in this country, sadly, much better than the public sector. They look like England looks. And if you look at, you've got all the countries coming together, people of all colours. Why would this not be a good place to say that we believe in equality and we don't believe that racism should exist any longer?
Mo, how do you think they're going to deal with this? If they do have athlete after athlete on the podium taking a knee, and in their charter and before the games they've said you can't do that, you can protest before, but don't during the medal ceremony. I mean, what are they going to do you think?
I'm not sure they can do very much, to be honest. These athletes will have huge followings, huge popularity across the world from the countries that they originate from. And if they choose to do that during a medal ceremony, the committee, the organised committee, will, I think, look very much on the wrong side of the argument if they try to intervene or if they penalise people for saying that racism is wrong. So I think it may be the carpet may be swept underneath their feet on this, and they may just have to evolve and rethink their own rules and their own strategy, because doing anything else, I think, would make them look pretty out of touch.
Nancy, do you think that they'll go as far as expelling athletes as they did in '68?
No, I think they'd look absolutely ridiculous. And what message would that send to the world? But they are saying that sort of during... They're not banning it completely, are they? It's the medal ceremony that they're saying people shouldn't be taking the knee or making what they're calling protest. But actually, that's the key moment, is it? And that's where we see the photos that last for generations. So what are they going to do to stop them? They can't physically stop them. So why would you not just support what is a very powerful message and join the anti-racism campaign?
Let's talk about their performance. Mo, what is this, page 8 of the Times? They have to have special pills because it's so humid.
Yeah, it's because it's so hot there that they have to take these pills that can transmit their temperature via Bluetooth, which sounds slightly scary, but actually I think temperatures are going to be up to 35 degrees. And they've already been doing things to get ready for the heat, like training in heat tents, taking lots of hot baths and saunas. So this is all a part of their preparation. And I think it's probably needed. I think there was an athlete from Russia that fainted, who fainted a few days ago because of the heat. People who live in Tokyo have been told not to exercise outside or spend too much time outside because of the heat. So it's a real concern, and it will be a real concern for the UK team and others. So seeing this kind of innovation and science help them, I think, is probably a good thing.
They should have just been training here the last week. They would have been fine. They'd be all set for Tokyo. It's been quite awful. OK, let's go from the Olympics to the pingdemic, or the Pingmageddon, as I heard this week. Self-isolation crisis threatens a summer of chaos on the railways. That's on the Daily Telegraph. Nancy, just talk us through that one.
Yes, so this is trains, and actually it reaches all sorts of public transport, all forms of public transport that can't operate because there are just too many members of staff, from the conductors to the train drivers to the people who serve the drinks, who are having to self-isolate. And actually we've seen quite a few examples of this already, train services being cancelled and all kinds of things, buses impacted because people are staying at home. And obviously, schools have broken up now, and it's going to get worse. People want to travel more. And there are so many people self-isolating because of the pandemic. It's just impossible to get places. And just think about how many people are having staycations and are wanting to travel around the country because they can't go anywhere else. So it does sound like it's going to be a recipe for disaster, and the government is going to have to do something fairly quickly on all sorts of self-isolation levels, but actually travel is a key one.
What do you mean they're going to have to do something quite quickly?
Well, are we going to have no trains, no buses, no food on the shelves? I mean, they're going to have to come out and do something, aren't they? They're already making these concessions so that we can get food moving, and we can give special no need to isolate
lists
go ahead to some areas, but actually transport is very, very fundamental. And it's not just about holidays, is it? It's about people getting to work, emergency services, people getting to work perhaps. So something is going to have to give here, otherwise we're all going to be back home because we can't get anywhere anyway.
I'm looking at the government guidelines now. It says the test to see if you can be exempt is applied when identifying if an individual could attend work is whether they work in critical elements of national infrastructure and whether their absence would be likely to lead to the loss or compromise of this infrastructure, resulting in, and then it lists some stuff. We don't have time. Mo, what do you think of this list of exemptions?
I think it's quite narrow and it seems quite bureaucratic. And I think it's designed that way because the government doesn't really want that many people to be captured by it and to be exempt, because self-isolation is now one of the only things that the government has left to fight the pandemic. Having lifted all these restrictions that we were all living under, this is the one tool it has in reserve, and I think it will need to use it quite carefully. So there clearly are pressure points. There are certain jobs where people haven't been able to turn up, which is having an impact on everyone's day-to-day life, and that is a challenge for the government. But I don't think it wants this list to be too broad or too wide, because it defeats the point, and it needs to have something it can say that it's still doing to try and control the pandemic, having lifted pretty much every other regulation we were living under.
Well, we have a pingdemic because we have a pandemic, as Jenny Harries told us today. Hello again, you're watching the press preview. With me now, the editor of the Sheffield Star, Nancy Fielder, and the former government special advisor, Mo Hussein. Hello again, thanks for hanging around. Let's start with the Times. And the latest wave of Channel migrants to hit 22,000. Nancy, just talk us through this. This is their front page.
Yes, so what this story is about is the number of migrants risking their lives because they are so desperate to find a safe country to come to. And actually, it's going to be more than ever this year, is what the story is saying. Priti Patel, as we can all imagine, pulling her hair out and getting very annoyed that these numbers are going up. But there are suggestions that the changes that are coming to make it harder to settle here if you enter in the country illegally is creating a big rush. And good weather is adding to that. And actually people are pouring in, looking to this country to help them. And it's incredibly controversial. It's doing exactly what the government said. It's doing the opposite of what the government were hoping for. They wanted to stamp this out, and it's actually getting far worse.
It was interesting this week, wasn't it? We had on the same day images of migrants, as you say, risking their lives to come here, and Jeff Bezos building a spaceship to take him to, to outer space, or the limits thereof. Mo, what do you make of this front of the Times?
Yeah, I think it's a real big problem for the Home Secretary, and it would be a real concern in Downing Street because the numbers are so high and getting higher, particularly after the government has announced a new immigration bill and tougher measures to try and combat this. I think the really serious point, though, is that something does need to be done about these criminal gangs who are benefiting from this misery and making money out of people's journeys. And the thing the government should be looking at is having these safe routes directly from the most conflict areas of the world, where the most vulnerable people who can't afford to pay the smugglers and who are maybe physically unable to make these journeys, the ones who really need our help them directly from the region so they don't have to make these kinds of journeys and the smugglers don't benefit from them.
Nancy, let's have a look at the front of your page, the Sheffield Star. Just talk us through that one.
So Tramlines Festival, a massive festival in Sheffield every year, obviously, except last year when it didn't happen, is finally up and running this year. There are people packed in Hillsborough Park. No mask, no social distancing. It's a trial event. They've done the test before they've gone in, and they are having an incredible time. It's very hot and sweaty in Sheffield, perhaps not as hot and sweaty as at the Olympics. But the irony is this festival is called Tramlines, and actually a lot of trams in Sheffield have had to stop or have got reduced services because most of the staff are at home self-isolating. So you open up some events and other key services fail. Some people are really keen for Tramlines, been waiting forever, and others think it's a disaster and it should never be allowed to go ahead. It's very interesting how everything is dividing opinion this year.
It was very interesting. Mo, what do you think about this? Because when they did those events in Liverpool and they tested and traced everyone, they didn't have a huge outbreak of COVID. What do you make of festivals now restarting? Well, everything restarting, but in particular festivals.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised at the events program in that lots of different things were tested and tried, and actually there weren't that many big outbreaks at all. So I think festivals have suffered long enough. A lot of people, including myself, enjoy going to them. And I think as long as you have the reassurance that everybody else who is there is safe and protected, has either been vaccinated or showed a negative test, then I think they can and that they should go ahead. It's the kind of thing that we as a society have really, really missed. And it's a part of getting back to normal, but in a safe way that gives people confidence to actually go to these things and enjoy themselves.